street harassment, harassment of women.
Can
And
you talk louder? I can barely
oh
hear
yeah,
you.
sure. No, a few of us have been talking that, just saying that there's been an increase in street harassment and violence against women. And, it just seems like the kind of thing that comes up at community meetings from time to time, but maybe getting a conversation going and trying to figure out how we can make some incremental progress, and learning like what you can do could make a difference. So,
Well, the conversations are happening, but unfortunately, they're happening on social media, which isn't an official channel. And that invites, in some cases, sort of a second tier of victimization, because somebody will come forward, say that she was followed, and she, can get piled on for like calling the police or, second guessing her judgment. And it's not constructive. It helps nobody. And so we need to steer this in a direction where people are getting the information that they need so they can handle these matters in an informed way without, they're educated and they're not being bullied. Plain as that.
yeah. And we know we're not going to solve this in one night. So we're kind of discussing starting a group. So whoever would be interested in joining, this can't be, Jan has a lot of ideas for topics, future events. So it doesn't make sense for it to just be every month of the women's committee meeting. So we can either do this through the neighborhood women group, which we're kind of getting going again, or just call ourselves a working group or task force or something. But, I think that regular meetings, whether we agree to do it monthly or whatever, is the only way we're really going to make progress, is if we keep going and turn this into a little group.
We could do the regular meetings, and then if we wanted to share minutes, perhaps at the end of Women's Issues Committee meetings, that way we would kind of get double coverage. Barbara McGlamory, I really wanted her to participate. I feel that she would have a lot to contribute to the discussion, but the problem is she's a therapist, and guess when she's busy? Now. So, I'm going to kind of take notes here, and perhaps she and I can talk or whatever, but I think like that way we could kind of cover more whoever we don't reach through these meetings or that meeting, and vice versa. I think you get the idea.
Oh. See if Jan is still not here. Yeah, and there are, we did not know, I guess this date was kind of given to Jan. She didn't select it, but it is the night we found out of the 94, the precinct meeting, which isn't perfect. And also
Assembly Town Hall.
And Emily Gallagher's town hall. So
just so you know, the committee chairs select the dates. Nothing is given.
okay. I did not know that. I'm sorry.
First Wednesdays of every month are the 94. I don't recall what the 90th is, but it would probably be a good idea to block those off.
Okay, that's a good idea. I'm going to write that down. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that it could be selected because it wasn't.
I'm going to look up when the 90th is, just out of curiosity.
Great.
Hold on.
Busy night in the neighborhood.
You got
so
that right.
Out of curiosity, is it just the 9 people on the call right now, or is there another screen of people
it looks
that
like
I'm
there
missing?
are a few more.
Jane, okay, 90th Community Council is the second Wednesday of every month. So you're looking at the first and the second.
All right. Good to know. Thank you, Heather. Great. Should we call Jan? Or did someone?
You might be having trouble getting on. because she knew today was the meeting.
Yeah, she did. Well, I think, well, we could kind of discuss structure. You know, Jan likes for when we conduct these meetings, the women's committee meetings, she likes for us to be respectful of one another. We could kind of review that. She likes for people to listen to each other, not interrupt. Use statements like "I believe" or "I think," you know, because you're giving your opinion, and just really be respectful of one another. So I
Actually,
think
it looks like Barbara's going to join us.
oh, good,
So her client canceled.
great, great. Here she is. Yeah.
Cool.
Hi, Jan. Here.
There she is.
Yay.
Oh, hi, everybody.
Hi.
Now my video went away.
Here we are.
There you go.
Then I don't have to brush my hair, right?
Nope.
Deborah,
Yes.
if
Hi.
we can, I just want to, sorry for being late. I was doctor's appointment at 2:30 that went over till now, took a taxi home. And just for you all is that I have a few health issues that I'm not dying tomorrow, but I'm trying to deal with.
Oh, boy,
And,
hope it's not serious.
And one of them is that when I came back from Patagonia a week ago, is that I got off the plane and I couldn't hear.
My
So
God.
somehow, it's after 6 flights in Patagonia and marching all over on boats and everything else with my son, my hearing, either from the pressure of the airplanes or whatever, has been affected. So I'm asking for help tonight from Deborah and Jane on this meeting. Either I would be having, I obviously have a computer here, so I can hear, I maybe can hear.
Wow.
But it's much better to have somebody that actually really can hear listening. So I want to apologize for that ahead of time also. People can hear me well, right? Am I sounding
Right.
loud?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And remember, Sandy's going to give me things that you put on your head. But either way, has everybody, Jane and Deborah, introduced themselves?
We haven't yet.
So can we just do a quick, so everybody always knows with women's groups, we actually like to know who's in the room. We care if you're there. And so just say something. And if you, and that's introduce yourself, but say what organization you're attached to, or none, that's fine, what block you live on. Because this is about harassment and violence against women tonight. And we have just come up with the shocking idea today in talking to Jane, and Tish is here as the co-chair. Tish, I see you over there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is that we found out that what we're hearing is that almost no money seems to be being spent in this neighborhood on the issue of violence against women. And almost all the solutions are for us to go and do things without any real institutional support that I can see. And that is rather dramatic idea going into this meeting, which is why we wanted Deborah and others to kind of do a review besides talking about the key issue tonight, which is street harassment and what's happening. Because we're also saying is that for everything that seems to be happening to women in terms of the violence issue, which is one of the largest issues to keep women down in the world, right? The numbers are outstanding, is that we're expected to solve it ourselves. And or hope that the police will do something. But that's obviously, that is not their job, if you recall, anymore anyway. They're supposed to do certain things, but not other things. And so I think we are on a hot spot, and I just will say that in this opening, without the long talking, is that I think that and I don't know, if I don't think Marie Lianza was there in the beginning, or Tish, but we go back to the beginning of Neighborhood Women in the 70s, and started with Carol Bellamy, who was one of the first women state senators in New York, and Marianne Kupchak, but Carol Bellamy, the first battered women's shelter in New York City. So we have a long history, and Cooper Park people who are not on here tonight, but and who all of them have died. Now, two of them have died. Diane Jackson has not died, but we're all part of the early history of the battered women's movement in this country. And I'm not going to go into that whole history right now. But I think, when I was with Jimmy Carter in the White House, we had the dramatic moment of bringing, because I had come out of organizing, and there I was, and battered women and rape were the two big issues in the middle 70s with the women's movement. And I set up a meeting with Midge Costanza, who was an assistant to the president, to hear directly from women that had been battered. Well, that was so shocking that we brought in the heads of the agencies in Washington, D.C. So just take that in your mind. Health Human Services agencies and Action Agency, and they had to listen to the real people that were experiencing the problem. And we had husbands that were batterers that supported their wives coming down to Washington. So it is appropriate that Williamsburg Greenpoint begin this discussion tonight, Deborah, because we have that history. We started the first shelter, which is in Sunset Park, by the way, and we knew that resources had to be applied, that people could not solve these issues without resources and institutional support. The police were the first group that we went after, and some of that you get that you hear from the training on some police now. So I just wanted to put that out. So Deborah and Jane, if you want to start,
And Heather,
introducing
too.
yourself so we can go around and get going. And welcome everybody, and just your name and your institution, or the fact that you yourself, if you have been experienced yourself, harassment, battering, or any kind of violence, please say that if you're willing to. And I'll just say, I'm Jan Peterson. I'm chairing this group, and I have been molested many times in the
Oh, my gosh.
50s and 60s. We learned how to live with it. And I had, when I was a child, I was molested, and at least one person went to jail. So I
Oh, my
have
God.
experience. I do not feel like a victim. I feel like a very empowered person, and I've always been organizing on it. So, Tish, you want to go next? Since you're co-chair, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Teresa, but everybody calls me Tish. And I've been on that planning board for many years, working with Jan and everyone else. And I'm on this committee. It's important that we meet and discuss these issues. I mean, I'm not in Brooklyn, I'm here in Pennsylvania, but I still want to be involved as long as I can. And hearing all this information about women in our area, we really haven't had problems in the past. But at some point, we're going to have to work a little harder, maybe with this women's issue, and address it to the planning board and get other people involved because it is serious now. And, I want to be a part of it, and I want to still be involved as long as I can. I mean, at some
Thank
point,
you.
I may be leaving the board, but I'm not doing it right now.
Now, you don't want to say how old you are, right, Tish?
How old am I?
Yeah.
How long have I been on the board?
a decade older than you, Jan.
I'm there. I'm not that
And
young.
that's her
but I have
daughter.
a good spirit about me.
There's
have young,
three of us,
young energy
just
in
for
me,
the
yeah.
rest
I
of
can
you
still
young
walk.
women that we're hoping to bring along. For all of you, the Tish, Marie, Leanza, and I are the 80 and up bunch, and we have been here together organizing around women since
Right.
the mid 70s. So just so you know, we are part of that whole history. Okay, next, Deborah.
Sure. My name is Deborah Spiroff. I am a professor and fine artist. I'm also a victims advocate with Wyckoff Hospital. I've done a lot of work in pushing to get legislation written, and I was successful in getting the Safeway Home Act, a new law in New York State that provides, passed into and signed into law, that provides people who go to seek treatment after an assault, they must be provided transportation home from the treatment facility if they choose to take it.
It's incredible. And have you yourself ever experienced violence?
Unfortunately, I have. I am a victim survivor, and I've always, even prior to that, been very interested in women's rights. And I was incredibly naive when I experienced my assault. I hadn't really had a lot of interaction with police or hospitals, and I just thought there was already a system in place to support victim survivors. And I found out rather shockingly there was not. And it was a defining moment in my life, and it altered the course of my life. So
Thank you, Jane.
I'm Jane Poole, and I'm with a bunch of local groups, but Neighborhood Women. We're going to reinvigorate the local level here, and I'm excited about that. I'm also a sexual assault survivor, which I haven't talked about a lot publicly ever. But anyway, yeah, and I just feel that this is an important topic, and we need to plan and make incremental progress, and we need to meet regularly in order to do that. We need to learn how things work, how to get things done, what to ask for, and fight for it. And I'm in 100%. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you for being here.
Okay, Heather.
Hi. I was at the last meeting. Like Deborah, I too am a working artist, MFA, sculpture.
You must speak.
And I live on Manhattan Avenue, and I have dealt with stalking on a number of occasions, both like in person and online.
Thank you. Now, Deborah Benders, I see you on there.
Yes, Jan, I'm here.
So nice to see you there.
Yay.
And who are you, Deborah?
I'm Cooper Park Resident Council President. I've been in Cooper Park 56 years. So, I'm happy to be on this call. I've been a victim of abuse as well, and it doesn't have a race, name, or age on it. So yeah, I understand everybody's problem here, and hope I can be a part of a solution for all of us. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's Emma? Emma?
Oh, that's me. Hi, I'm Emma. I usually write for Green Pointers, but I think tonight I'm mostly representing myself. And yeah, I'm just eager to hear about community-based solutions and just how folks want to, deal with issues like this.
How about yourself?
About me?
Yeah. Have you experienced yourself, or you've just have friends or other people you've heard about?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've experienced behaviors, I would say, on the spectrum of violence. I don't consider myself a survivor or somebody who's experienced sexual assault, but you know, I have plenty of friends who have, just, you know, as a woman.
Thank you, because we're seeing that it's almost become invisible. Women are never bringing this up as much as we say we're also liberated in today's world. Francoise, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I have a little one in the
Bloopers.
background. I
It's
live
nice
on,
to see the faces if we can. Yeah, go on.
I live on West Street in Greenpoint. I used to live on India, Manhattan. Also a survivor. And you know, just here to try to figure out different solutions. We did one thing in Greenpoint, which I'll talk about later, which I thought was just super helpful in terms of feeling safe. And I'm also just, you know, concerned for the women, but also the teenagers, because they're experiencing some stuff as well, which is frightening. So it's really, how do we create a safe community for everyone? What are those solutions, and how do we work together?
Thank you. And by the way, do we have the recording on at the office? Whoever's on representing Community Board 1, I hope this is being recorded because I don't see the little thing running around. And anytime people want it not to be recorded, they can speak, but Jerry or whoever's over there,
Recording has been on since the meeting started.
oh, it's just not on. I don't see it, but that's all right. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry, you want to introduce yourself?
Jerry Esposito, staff of Community Board 1, resident of Consolidate Street.
Okay.
Born and raised.
Any experience with violence?
Just as a kid, when we, went to the parks and stuff like that, the older kids always chase the younger kids, but nothing as an adult.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Erica.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's Erica Nevelin. I want to say hi to Jan Peterson, Jane Poole, and Tish. You all know us. It's Mom and I. We attended many community meetings. So I'm going to hand over the mic to my mother, Evelyn. If you don't know us, we attended, like I said, many meetings, the MPNA in McGovern Park. So I'm going to give the mic over to her. Okay, everybody?
Hi, Jan.
Hi.
Hi.
Dan, I'm still living on Jewel Street. My mother and father brought me home from St. Catharines in the 1940s. So I'm still here, and I'm always interested in what's still going on in the neighborhood. I was involved when we had the Asian longhorn beetle. I became a citizen pruner through the community board when they had it through Trees of New York. And I was involved with Irene Clement Tubbage with the Concerned Citizens of Greenpoint and blah, blah, blah. But later on, I just would like to speak up about an issue at McGolrick Park.
If it's the issue with Heather, if it's that issue.
The issue is about lighting at McGolrick Park.
Okay. Go on. You can bring that up.
I'll bring it up later after everybody introduces.
Yeah.
themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jewel Street. I loved living on Jewel Street. I love McGoldrick Park. Spent a lot of years trying to redevelop. My son was raised in McGoldrick
What do you feel
Park.
about women's issues?
Yeah, I helped get the trees on the block. We had one tree. We went to about 15 back in 1997.
All right, hold on. I'm just going to get her on one thing. So what do you feel about women's issues in the neighborhood?
I think it's a great committee for the community board and for more people to be involved and to speak up. It's great. You're doing great work.
Thank you. Lisa Bamonte.
Hi, Jan. I'm sorry, my camera is not working.
That beautiful face, and we can't see
I'm
it.
so sorry. I'm a community board member. I work and live in the neighborhood. I'm fourth generation. I think that this is a topic that needs is very important because I still feel that women as a whole need to have a voice and need to feel comfortable about having that voice, especially when it comes to, you know, any type of assault or something like that. I think that, you know, some people don't feel comfortable about it. I think that a lot of women don't report still to this day, which I find very alarming. And I'm glad that we can be together as a group to try to help these people have that voice.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
And strong mother there. Megan.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan. I'm on Nassau. I'm not part of any organization, but it was suggested that I attend this meeting because I was a victim of an incident just a couple days ago in the Gulrig Park. So I definitely wanted to join and hear what, you know, everyone else's contributions are and how we're going to sort of try to work on this issue in the neighborhood.
I'm very glad that you called in. Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. Okay, Roya.
Hi, everyone. So nice to meet all of you and hear your stories. And Lisa, I'm wondering if your family is the Bamonte restaurant family.
Yes, we
Yeah.
She is the famous Bamonte for sure.
Wow. Well, I love that place and haven't been for probably the duration of the pandemic. So hope to be back soon. But I'm Roya. I live on Greenpoint Ave and have definitely been a victim or a survivor, as you would say. And I feel like I've definitely seen an uptick just in my own experience and that of neighbors and friends, probably the past year and a half, 2 years, of street harassment, catcalling, all of that becoming a much more common occurrence than I was used to. And I was followed in Williamsburg in September. So I'm definitely noticing it more and really passionate about a community-based approach of how we can support each other and hopefully also involve the men in our community who definitely have a role to play here. So thank you for organizing this forum.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody that did not introduce themselves?
Ollie,
Yes,
Carly, and Kayla.
I know you because you know what? There's no name there, and I'm looking at.
Oh,
Okay, Carly.
it has
And
me.
Deborah, the persons that can hear and talk are supposed to be chairing, Deborah. But I take over, you know, that's how, that's the problem.
Hi,
Carly.
I'm Colleen. I live on Oak Street. My nickname's Carly. I'm not affiliated with really any organization. My husband is, but I'm not. I was followed and stalked for about a year in the late 90s, and that was taken care of. And my daughter was raped when she was 13 by someone in the neighborhood. So when I started reading these things, actually, when my daughter was raped, I went to the 94th precinct. They did absolutely nothing. One of the people that did help me through this was Heather. And Heather has been on the Nextdoor app and she invited me to the meeting tonight. So here I am.
Thank you for coming and speaking out. Carly.
Yes.
No, who?
I think Barbara McGlamory might be on this call.
Yeah, somebody
Yes,
else that
hi.
said that. Right. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi. I'm Barbara McGlamory. I live on Freeman Street. I'm a therapist in the neighborhood. I've been in the neighborhood since '97. I'm involved in like a lot of park stuff with Jane. And I was assaulted, not sexually, but assaulted when I was 15, beat up and by a man. And I'm really, you know, I've been concerned for 10, 15 years about some of the individuals in the neighborhood who seem to sort of run amok on regular basis. So I'm here to, you know, do what I can, learn, lend support, etc. Glad to be here.
Marie, I know you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. And Kayla hasn't spoken.
Yeah, Kayla. That's what I said, Carly. Kayla, and then Marie after her.
Cool. Thanks for having me. My name is Kayla. I live on Driggs Avenue between Kingsland and Sutton. I'm just a couple blocks away from McGolrick, and I cherish that park. I try to go there all the time. I've been in the neighborhood for 3 years, over 3 years now. I am a survivor of multiple sexual assaults and stalking. Um, I've been charged before by someone who seemed drunk right 1 block away that I tried to dodge them. And I'm just very concerned with not feeling safe recently. And, specifically hearing about Megan's incident on Nextdoor. Thanks for sharing this meeting, Heather. I want to find out how I can help and how we can pressure to get resources and push, because this is not okay. So thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
very much. Marie Leanza.
Hi, nice to hear from all of you. I'm Marie Lienza. I live in the same house all my life. I work with St. Nicholas Alliance, and I was an organizer, then a property manager, now an activities person, and I'm always active in the community. And I remember a lot of the stories with Jan, the National Congress of Neighborhood Women with the shelter. So I'm very well aware of it. And it looks like it never really changed because things are still happening. So maybe with these groups, we can have some change.
Thank you. Shirai, come here.
And Katie Denny Horowitz. I
Well,
think
Katie, you go while I'm getting Shirai to walk across the room.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Jan. Katie Denny Horowitz. I run the North Brooklyn Parks Alliance. I'm a member of the of this committee and a relatively new member of this committee. So I live in Greenpoint on West Street for about 20 years, and so sorry, I have 2 little kids who are trying to
Is
just.
that why your arm is moving all the time?
I am listening and look forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Thank you. The brave people with the children my son had to come to all this all the time. Now, Shirai, would you please, so we can go on with our meeting? You don't want to introduce yourself? Huh? She doesn't want to introduce herself. Shirai left Zimbabwe with her husband trying to kill her some years ago. So she is here in the neighborhood and knows an extreme amount about violence. And sometimes she does tell the story. Well, who is that? Katie's child. Was that a boy
That person
too?
said.
And that was probably a boy on top of it, right? No. So someday, Shirai, you will tell your story to the group. Yes, she will. Okay. So she will. So I'm going into the meeting. Deborah, are we still doing, you and Jane kind of re-looked at the agenda? You were going to do an overview. You still want to do that?
Yes, I will certainly do an overview.
And just to say, you just saw an overview because it's pretty incredible thing at the amount of people that are sitting on this phone that all have had experiences with violence. And I bet you for a lot of people, they didn't know it. They know each other, but they did not know. Right. But go on,
Yeah.
Deborah.
Well, just to give some basic information, as a very common statistic is 1 in 4 women will experience sexual assault within their lifetime. So whether or not it has been your own personal experience, someone you know and love has gone through it. That's one thing. One thing that drives me a little crazy about a lot of information in the neighborhood is the official channel of communication as far as crime in our neighborhood through the 94th precinct will frequently state there's only been 1 or 2 instances of sexual assault or domestic violence within a 6 months time frame, whatever it is. Yet I go into the hospital on a regular basis, and I know because that between Wyckoff Hospital and Woodhull Hospital, on average, there is between 38 to 43 persons seeking treatment for some form of violence. So to say that includes sexual assault, that includes domestic violence, that would also include being beat up or physically assaulted in some way. And so when we hear that information, it makes it seem like there's not a problem in the neighborhood when you go to the 94th precinct meeting, but then what's actually happening within the hospitals is very different, and it more accurately reflects what we see being played out on social media of individuals who are experiencing this. And Jan, you are right. There is not a lot of resources within our community. It has really been pushed by the officials onto individuals and the community, and in certain instances, hospitals who have, when somebody is seeking resources or help or treatment, it has fallen to the hospitals or the individual to piecemeal something together, and that really needs to change. I don't know if Jane wants to cover some, or Heather, some of the specific issues about we have at the hospital level seen a higher rate of both domestic violence, and we're beginning to see cases rise as far as actually coming in for treatment for sexual assault. Now that things have gotten a little less scary with the hospitals and the pandemic. But as things open up more and more and people socialize more, there's a lot of pent up energy and cases that weren't reported because people were too scared because of the pandemic to seek
People
treatment.
resume bar hopping and things
Right.
of that nature in the spring, it's going to blow up.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
is the anticipation.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm already looking at, okay, I don't know how late we're going to go, but it's 6:41 now. And I'm really moved that so many, people are here, and that, we're seeing what an issue it is. I mean, we all know it, but I feel like I really, I would like to kind of formally invite, I don't know, we can figure it out through an email list, but I want to make sure by the end of the meeting that we've established another meeting time, or about a time, or a sign up list somewhere, something that we can do to make sure that we continue to meet those of us who are interested in kind of seeing this through. Sign up somewhere, whether we pick someone to, email, send, I want to make sure we do that, and really start to talk about what outcomes we want.
Well, you
So,
created a very, very good list. And I did copy and paste that and put it into Nextdoor so people would kind of understand what we're trying to do, because it kind of starts with the assaults and the harassment, but then there's all of these tangential issues which have arisen as a result. And so what we need, we've talked about this. We're just going to methodically try to go down the list. Building upon your idea of an email, and I know I dropped this with you, and I know your inclinations, but I really think a private group somewhere where people can check in, post notices, or share information is a good idea, because everybody's got their own schedules. Not everybody can be at one place at one time or relay the information, and this would enable us to do something at our leisure.
And we should say that let's say the success of the National Congress was that we started the first battered women's shelter. It still exists in Sunset Park. It's grown to be a very large citywide organization that works with children in the schools and everything else. Neighborhood Women is not running it, but it started with the YWCA, the Brooklyn Women's Center at Brooklyn College, and But the fact is, in Waynesburg, Greenpoint, even though Mildred Johnson, Margaret Carnegie, and all these women, Deborah, that since you're on there, is that started this whole thing, and they went to Washington, they testified, they went to the city. I mean, they did an amazing job, but they didn't build a structure. There was no organizational structure in Waynesburg, Greenpoint. So that means that every time something happened, people will say, "Oh, go down to South Brooklyn Legal Services," because that's the only legal services that was handling violence, by the way. And I don't know if they still do, but we provided the staff person to that to South Brooklyn Legal Services. I don't think legal services right now, and I think part of what you want to consider is do an assessment of who actually is doing what. You know, even from a legal point of view, who's helping? I talked to Rolando Marie today because I know that St. Nicholas has apartments for women that have been battered. I never hear about that. It's in Greenpoint. It's on like Kent or Milton or one of those blocks, and they own the buildings. They get money from the city of New York for violence against women. You should know what that is.
Okay, I do have something to say about shelters and things of that nature. Right now, Safe Horizons is the umbrella organization for people who are in need of shelter. So everything gets funneled through them. They also have links in with legal assistance. Through them, they work directly with the court system. There are individual organizations through Legal Aid is actively involved with Wyckoff Hospital and Woodhull Hospital. There's a number of different organizations, and I can help compile that list.
That would be helpful.
Specifically speaking about there being places or buildings that sheltered individuals who have experienced violence. We have to be extremely careful about maintaining the privacy and the anonymity of those locations. It's one thing if women feel as though their location is public knowledge, they won't go into this because they are literally hiding for their lives because someone is battering them and harming them and their children. So if we do locate, that is most likely why that information isn't common knowledge. There are places and throughout the city.
And unfortunately, what it does do, because the original person that started battered women's shelters had the opposite philosophy. And I just want to say is that I think we should relook at all these things. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, Deborah, but if you feel that everything is hidden about you, then you feel that there's something wrong with you too. There's something wrong about the fact that we cannot keep safe women that move to another apartment, leave their own home. And we might want to take on the idea of that the man has to leave the house. And I'm just saying that there are strategies. So it would be worthwhile, for example, to have a whole event where you bring together the people that have tried different strategies. Why should a woman who's being battered have to leave her home and go someplace else? And there are solutions, and some people have it. I know you know some of them, Deborah, but I'm just suggesting that if I feel that there's something wrong with me, when I was molested as a child, my parents did not make me ask me what did I do, and I have never felt that I did something wrong because I was molested. But there are millions of little girls that feel that they were something wrong with them because they were molested. So I'm just suggesting these are topics to really look at, right? To go in depth about and to figure out who's the core group. Any woman in Waynesburg, Greenpoint, if you have to go to court alone or go someplace alone, you're not going to do it. But if you had nothing else but that there was a woman from any one of us, and it doesn't have to be us, that would go with you, you might feel different. That's all I want to say.
Well, that is specifically, that sort of thing is what, it can be what a victim's advocate does. Most, but those getting access to those individuals, everything is ad hoc and happenstance. There is
Right.
not
That's true.
a defined system of a way to get access to someone like me, who could potentially go with you to the police precinct and sit there and help schedule the appointment so that you can make a report if that is what you choose to do, and to inform you of your rights. A lot of women I talked with do not know that they now have 20 years to decide to report a sexual assault in the state of New York.
So
So,
thank you. So we might want to do an update flyer that says an alert with some of these facts on it for women to pick up. But either way, we're moving pretty fast because I think we were. Is it still in your plan that we were going to have Heather?
Well, I don't know what I was gonna do or have, but to build upon what Deborah Spiroff spoke about, and she and I have talked about this. I mean, one resource that nobody seems to hear about, and I ended up bringing it up years ago when we had a hate crime here. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was a biased, anti-gay crime, and it was in Williamsburg. But he ended up being at Woodhull for 8 hours getting reconstructive surgery. And of
Wow.
course, then the matter becomes his medical bills. I have to ask, where is the state's crime victims board? Okay, I worked for a state crime victims board somewhere else, and I would be very curious to know what this state offers. What do they do? Maybe scaling a little bit back from battered women's shelter, but what if you need help with your medical bills? Do they cover changing your locks? Things
yes,
like
they
that.
do.
Hotel rooms. Nobody knows that we have these resources. And I think this is an organization that we should bring in and have them talk to us.
Very good.
And it's when we get into street harassment, I don't know, it's kind of like an interlocking issue. You've got the actual verbal harassment. A lot of times this stuff escalates into physical harassment, which is a gentleman that we've kind of seen over here. And, it's progressively becoming more violent. And how do we dismantle it? And I think something else we need to think about, because this is a big shift since the 70s, is this reciprocity between online harassment, impersonal physical violence or harassment. And the police are just like totally do not know, will not acknowledge that this is an issue, and it can go to some very dark places. I mean, it's not just about causing people emotional distress. All right. I have a friend who had her house with a map published on Twitter to have people go over there. It's bad. We've just got a huge learning curve, and frankly, the police are not helpful. And I don't know what else to say right now, but that's just a little bit to start. I would like some of the women that have called in that have had experiences perhaps to talk about what they've experienced so we can kind of get an idea of some of the stuff that's happened recently. I feel like this stuff is always going on. Let's be clear, it never stopped. But, by doing outreach online, we can become more aware of what's going on, have people come and tell their stories. There's a lot we can work with here, but we just have to be careful with identities and things like that, that people are not retaliated against, people finding out where they live or whatever. But why don't we open it up to some of the women that called
Thank you,
in?
Heather.
I can go because Heather had invited me to the meeting, and my incident just happened on Monday. So I've only been in the neighborhood for about 6 months, but I've been in the city for about 6 years now. And so I was walking my dog in the morning as usual, and we typically go to McGolrick Park because I'm on Nassau, so we're quite close. And I have really never had a problem in McGolrick. I don't typically go there like after dark or any time like that, but we do go around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And there's usually a good amount of people there, walking their dogs and um, just out. And it's, this time of year, it's very fully bright out at that time of day anyway. So I've never felt any particular way in that park, but I typically enter in around Nassau and Russell. And that side, the northern part of the park, it's a little less crowded, but it's not completely barren. It's not, anywhere that I feel unsafe. But I had entered in, and there was a man just sitting on one of the benches near the entrance of the park. And I noticed him right away because I'm always, very alert, especially with my dog, because he's, a fairly large dog, and I like to kind of keep tabs on everybody and everything. Um, as I'm walking him. And so the man was sort of, looking at us, which isn't completely suspicious. This happens a lot. So we just, I kind of ignored him, but he continued to watch us as we were walking through sort of like one of the larger picnic areas of the park. So, the more grassier areas, of course, they're now covered in snow, but we were walking through this area of the park, and he was sitting on the bench, and then sort of just out of nowhere he got up off the bench. He jumped over the rail of the park, so we have like those, the rails that kind of surround each of the grassy areas. He jumped over the rail, and then he started directly coming toward us very quickly. And I didn't notice until my dog started barking and going very crazy, which is very uncharacteristic for my dog. He's pretty quiet, but he was really freaked out. And of course, I was immediately panicking because he was coming right at us. And so I tried to back up, with my dog to exit over the rail on the other side of the area. Um, and I would try to kind of like zigzag back and forth to like find a way to exit. And the man would like copy me and like zigzag my same way while still coming very quickly towards me. Um, and I think honestly, because there was so much snow, like it was very helpful because he could have gotten to us much faster. Um, but the snow was, up to like our shins. So I'm just trying to exit with my dog. I'm trying to yank my dog backwards because he's, freaking out, and he's very strong. And so we make it to the other side of the grassy area with the man still coming at us. But of course, I fall because of the snow. I stumble. And at this point, I just figure like I need to scream really loudly because I'm now in a really compromised position being on the ground. And this man could easily just run up and grab us or grab my dog. And I thought the initial intention was to take my dog because I've heard a lot about people stealing dogs, specifically in McCarran over the summer. And this man did not seem afraid of my dog at all, which is kind of strange because my dog, again, is quite large and he was carrying on very much so. So I screamed really loudly. And I also did this because I noticed, like, out of the corner of my eye when this man started chasing us, that there was some people entering the park at the same entrance that I was, which is normal. It's not completely uncrowded. So there was a man who was walking his dogs coming in that same entrance. And so I needed to alert those people. There was a woman coming in the opposite direction with her dog. So I screamed really loudly, and at this point, the man stopped and he started laughing after I screamed, and then he turned around and went back to his bench, and I jumped over the rail of the grassy area to get back on the park path. And I noticed that the man now quickly had like came up behind us and was now following us. Um, and so I tried to get the attention of one of the guy who had come into the park with his two dogs, one of the walkers. He had his headphones in, so it was, of course, a trial to get his attention, but I finally did. And I told him, that man is like, he just chased us and he's now following us. Like, can you please help me? Um, and, he quick turned around and was like, oh, what, like the man in the blue? And I said, yes, because he was wearing like an all blue outfit, which I'm going to get to in a second because I've gotten a little bit more insight on this. And essentially, this man was really unempathetic about us being chased. And I don't know if he just didn't know what to say or do, but he was by proxy also being followed because this, citizen was in between me and the man who was following us. So, I sort of just gave up and I was like, I'm just going to sprint out of the park at this point. I'm close enough to the side exit, which is, I'm not quite sure which street that is, but essentially, I sprinted out the eastern, like longer stretch of the park, the side exit there, or I'm sorry, the western section. And then I ran down to Variety, so Driggs, the Variety coffee shop there. So it's a little bit more crowded down there where the dog park is. So I sprinted out that exit and down south. And I saw the man, so I was specifically kind of watching just to make sure he wasn't following us still. And I saw him exit on the other end, so all the way down at the other side. And so it's actually, I put it in my post, like, I'm not sure the mental state of this man. And that's another of the reasons I didn't end up calling the police because of that. But I did find out later on. So I had someone message me on Nextdoor, and she was saying to me, that she's seen the same man, but in Cooper Park, and that she hasn't seen him act in this fashion, but that she told me that he was wearing the same outfit and that this is an outfit from the nonprofit, which is quite popular in the city. It's the Ready, Willing, and Able Fund, which basically just helps mentally ill and incarcerated folks and put them into jobs around the city. And so they typically wear like this standard blue outfits, kind of like medical scrubs, but it had the same logo on the back that I remembered seeing, but I couldn't make out the words. And so I had actually been speaking with my therapist, and when I had told her about this incident, she said that she actually works with this nonprofit quite often, and that I'm not sure if any of you have, any insight into this nonprofit, but she said with her experience, unfortunately, she doesn't find that it's run very well, and that it used to be a really great program, but the oversight has kind of gone downhill, and I don't know if they've lost funding or whatnot, but I would certainly hate to see this organization be, victimized in any way, which is another reason I don't always feel comfortable calling the police, because I don't want them to be retaliated against. But she had made it clear to me that usually, members of this organization are supposed to be with at least one other person, one other member of the group, or in a group, just in general. So typically you'll see them in groups like cleaning up around the parks, and they're usually dispatched when the New York City Parks Department is kind of stretched thin. So usually during something like a blizzard, which we had just had. And that sort of made sense to me because I've never seen this group before in the neighborhood. I think I might have seen them when I used to live in Manhattan, but I'm assuming that this man was perhaps supposed to be at a different post, or maybe he was no longer on duty, but he was alone. And another kind of important factor about him that I put in my post as well is that he was carrying like a plastic bag, which is initially, why I was also quite scared, because I didn't know the intention of him using the bag. And before I knew, what organization he was a part of, I had thought, this person might be trying to take my dog and might be trying to like use the bag to do so. So I brought up the bag to her, and she said that generally what happens is if they are recently released from a psychiatric ward, they're given a bag of this nature. And she had described it to me, and it was the same bag that he was holding, and basically just to hold their belongings and to prove to them, that they've gotten their belongings back. So I don't know, what his circumstances were, and if he was working, if he was not working, if he, was without a home during this time period. I know she had told me that unfortunately, like it's kind of not, because it's not run very, very well nowadays. There's not a lot of oversight. So I don't know his story, but he has been seen in Cooper Park apparently as well. So he could have came from there. But it's an element of the incident that kind of speaks to why people are reluctant and why I was reluctant to contact the police because this was 99% a mentally ill individual. There are individuals part of this program who are not necessarily mentally ill, but were formerly incarcerated. And there's people who do very well in this program too. So it doesn't speak to everyone, of course, but this is just a facet that kind of complicates it a little bit more. And I think that we've seen a whole lot of, especially with COVID, because of all of the shelters and all of the organizations like this that are really so stretched thin. So, that's kind of why I've been very, very reluctant to respond to anyone about, you should call the police or why didn't you report this? And, unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons for that. But this is kind of one of those incidents and that I've had before with people who are unfortunately mentally unstable or who, maybe might have been able to receive medication before, but are just kind of in between doctor's appointments, which unfortunately I was informed happens a lot with this organization. So I don't know if anyone, has any insight into them or has heard about their work. But I did reach out to them. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
what's the name of the organization? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so the program is called Ready, Willing, and Able, and it's from the Doe Fund. So I don't know if they
Yes.
have other. Yeah, so apparently they're quite popular, but I hadn't really heard of them, so I didn't recognize immediately the outfit. But yeah, so they're pretty widespread throughout the city, and like I said, my therapist said it used to be very regimented and very strict. They'd have to go through a whole reporting system of their progress. They'd have, a chaperone usually at all times. They had a lot of different like quotas to meet. And now it's kind of gone downhill a bit. And
But the issue still is, my dear, is that you were terrified.
yeah,
And you were
absolutely.
being, I mean, let's
Yeah. I mean,
start.
it's no excuse at all. I'm just
No,
saying
it's not
this is a big
excuse.
reason for like,
But
for
it's a classic role for women. We would
yeah.
find everything possible to not put people into a bad situation. That doesn't mean you're not right.
Yeah.
But these
Yeah,
are,
of
you're saying
course.
these are issues to talk about, and we're pitted against each other in a city that is not housing the homeless and is not doing a
They're
variety of
warehousing
things.
them.
Right.
Yes, that's
They're
what
warehousing them. I
they've
wish
been
Laura
warehousing.
Hoffman was here because she and I live on the north end of Greenpoint where we have got two really large shelters. One is a family shelter for, I guess couples without children, and the other one is a men's assessment center. In other words, this is where they come in to be assessed. I want to relay this to Megan because I think I feel like I'm going to give her a few things here. There is a Doe shelter in the Williamsburg IBZ, and it is not that far from Cooper. Okay. That might be where he comes from. I mean, I've walked by it. Obviously, I've never checked it out or anything like that. But to flip back, some of the issues that we've had over the years with the shelters here, the men's shelter in particular is run by Brick, and Laura's built a relationship with them, and they have meetings, and they are very responsive when somebody acts out here. Because sometimes it's troubling behavior that perhaps doesn't necessarily need a criminal or police intervention. I mean, I personally had to contact them once because this guy, it's crazy. My landlords were working on the building and he just started screaming at them because he asked them a question. They responded in Polish inflected English, and he started spouting off all of this really, you can't call it racist, but anti-immigrant rhetoric, just super nasty. And then crazily enough, he was boarding the bus with a wheelchair and like it acting like he had a disability. It was just absolutely crazy. Is that a police matter? No. But I talked what's his name, Doug Tatum, and they dealt with it. Because as soon as they started lashing out at neighborhood residents, they send them somewhere else, which may not be the best solution to a problem, but I think we could agree it could be better than calling the police and having this spiral or escalate into violence. I don't know if that's helpful, Megan, but that's a little bit of insight from
We
my
have other
end.
people,
I think that,
Yeah, there's another person. Yes.
Jane?
yeah. No, I just wanted to say that I think that's one of the things we really need to learn is what to do, when to file a report, when to, like, who to contact. And that's something we need to learn. And then we could get that information out there. But that is a perfect case where you would feel like, I don't know what to do. I'm with you, Megan. But
Who else was speaking that came? Heather, with you tonight.
Roya, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
And I think there's an MSP. I'm not too sure who MSP is, but Roya, if you've got a few things to say, please.
Yeah, thanks for the space. I feel the same conflict a lot of you are experiencing of if you experience harassment, calling the police doesn't always feel like the right solution. It also doesn't seem to be effective in my experience. I was mugged and groped in Williamsburg a few years back and called them and they did absolutely nothing. They didn't even ask me a question.
Yeah, they will refuse to take reports. It is something.
Yeah. So, and like, yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say about that, but my own experience with NYPD has definitely been disappointing and unhelpful. And so I just hope there's something we can do. I know that at least in Manhattan, there's an initiative, I believe it's called Safe Walks NYC, and it was created in the wake of attacks against the Asian and Pacific Islander community that started last year. And essentially, you can, I think they're on a few different social media channels as well as like a email and a text, but you reach out and you say, hey, I'm going from this neighborhood to this neighborhood. I don't feel so safe going by myself. Can I have someone come with me? And oftentimes they have like multiple people come and it's kind of like a group volunteering effort. And I don't know if something like that is helpful for me. I walk my dog in the mornings and there have been mornings 8 a.m. bright as daylight, other people are around and getting harassed. So I don't know if it's just going on a dog walk with another person and there's strength in numbers, at least as a starting point, could be helpful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Those are the things on my mind. And I'm just really grateful to be in this meeting and I hope I can come to more of these sessions. This is a wonderful group of people and I really appreciate all that you're doing.
Random question. Whatever happened to Right Rides? Does anybody remember Right Rides?
Yeah.
Okay, years ago, I believe there was an organization called Right Rides. Like, let's say you're at a bar, you want to leave, but there's a guy that is giving you a vibe. You could call, and somebody would come and pick you up and get you back to your house.
Wow.
That's a research project right there because they
Yeah.
used to be around. Maybe they're gone now, but perhaps that's something worth looking up. I mean, it's all well and good to have somebody escort you, but it doesn't solve the problem. The problem being, and I've seen a lot of this, and Deborah hears about it all the time. We've got a gentleman over here who does have some mental issues. However, he also has issues with women, hatred, misogyny, and he attacks them. Okay. And it used to be more low-level stuff, just sort of groping or gesticulating lewdly on the street. This has escalated now into stalking to the point where the woman who took it up in court, she ended up moving because she just gave up. She couldn't take it anymore, and the police were not making her feel any better. If anything, the victim and perp role was reversed, as if she was the one causing the problem. Today I became aware that this has really wound up, and he was caught with a gun recently. Yeah. I'm going to send you the outline, Jane, because I wrote it down. I had to write it down because there were 4 arrests in the span of since July to January. I mean, it was just there's so much to disambiguate here. And I think getting somebody in that will tell us what our resources are in terms of dealing with people who have got mental health issues. That
Okay.
is one layer to peel off. The lack of police responsiveness or turning women away from filing reports. And oftentimes they'll say, well, he's got a problem. Well, that's fine, but he punched a woman in the head. Okay. This is not good. We should not be, what was it, Anna, that spoke at the last meeting? We shouldn't be collateral damage to this, for this. And
Right.
we're not being, what is the term? Karens, okay? We're not trying to hold the power of the state and use white woman victimhood to just arbitrarily grind somebody down. We've been hurt,
Yeah.
okay? We deserve to have the recourse. I know I'm kind of rambling, but that's just a few thoughts.
Yeah, but I think you're onto something, and it started last time. What Heather is saying is that you have the issue with the police that we can begin to identify clearly where they're not responding, right? And
Or
it
they make
doesn't-
it worse,
right,
just
or they
by
make it
adding
worse.
to
You
it.
have
I
so people don't know. You want to speak, Jane?
No, I just
Prince,
think that by, starting a group and having a group and
Right.
getting the word out there, then you have the support of the group behind you. You have like institutional support. So if you want to make a report, you can put the word out and a bunch of us could show up and support you and walk with you. I mean,
We can take it in shifts, so it's not like
great.
you, me, and Deborah having to all, like, it's been us kind of
We can
talking
grow
and
the
trying
group.
to align.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're also saying is that all over the world, there is a movement around safe public space, certainly for women, in parks and streets. That is the worldwide movement. We had a speaker on that topic. We have the people that are here in New York. I'm sorry tonight we could not get Hala back here. And I think they do now international work just to hear what people are doing. Because you definitely need a group. If you don't have a group that's going to monitor what's happening and bring it forward, you're not going to get anywhere.
I did speak with Hollaback and they wanted to come, but this date did not work out. But Hollaback, I don't know if you all know, but it's an organization that helps teach people how to de-escalate street harassment. And they claim it works about 80% of the time. And street harassment is not everything that we're covering in this situation. And certainly with mental health, people with mental health issues, that certainly may not work. But in a lot of cases, they can help you. And so, I mean, I think that we can identify that, learning how to de-escalate street harassment is not solving a problem, but it may help with some of the issues. And I think a lot of people might be interested in it, and it'll give you some tools.
There in
And
Brooklyn,
and so
why?
they've offered free training to the community. So that's something we can set up too.
Is that something that people would like to have offered? Doesn't mean you have to do it, but they're down at the Brooklyn Y where we started the first battered women's shelter. That's where they're located, Hollaback.
yeah. Yes, I would like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we
Yeah,
can.
so who would be interested in free training to learn how to
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay, there you
Good,
go.
good.
So let's.
We can put
Who's
the word out.
coordinating? Heather, do you want to coordinate that, or Jane, or Deborah? Who's
We can work
coordinating?
together.
It will work
Okay.
together. We're sort of like a trio. We kind of kick things back and forth. A
Right.
book that I picked up recently, and I've started to read it kind of in fits and starts, and I think other people might find it interesting. I was looking for the chat. I can't find it right now, but hey, I'm tired. I told you about it, Jane. I showed it to you.
Yeah.
The Feminist City, Claiming Space in a Man-Made World by Leslie Kern.
Sounds good.
I think this is something that we should consult, and not just with street harassment, but like you said, streets, parks, everything, because all of this was really built by and for the use of men. So,
And right now we're exploring different strategies. So that book might be a good one for people that would like to be part of read that book together and report on it. Would not hurt, right? Those people that like to read, those people that like to go to workshops, can do that, but we can begin to pull that out. We don't have to make fast decisions, but we are seeing that if we don't monitor what's going on, it gets lost. People are bearing it. The police department, we already have the issues we can begin to put together. And I remember when we brought in the head of the police department, I thought, why does this seem like a meeting that's not going anywhere? Which it didn't. And she was a woman, so it didn't matter. Good woman, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I just, sorry, Heather.
That's all right. Go for it.
First, I just want to give Francois the ability to speak. She's had her hand up for a while, and then I'll
I
come
didn't
back
even see
after.
your hand,
Yeah.
Francois. See, I
Oh.
can't now. I can't see either.
Thank you,
Besides here.
Deborah.
You're welcome.
So one of the solutions that some people came up with in Greenpoint is a local mom who is a martial artist and multiple other things. She did a free self-defense class that people showed up to, and I think just I haven't done a class like that since I moved to New York in 1992, but it was just really nice to kind of remember there are certain ways to stand, there are certain ways to, thank you, Josephine, just to protect your head, the vulnerable parts on the attacker. Josephine, give Mama one moment, please. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. But I think that in itself, just different ways to stand on the subway. I think there are a lot of women who aren't comfortable taking the subway late at night, and lifts can be, if you're in the city, sometimes $40 to $60. So I don't know if I could reach out to that mom and see if, we wanted to get that group together again. It was like an hour and a half, and it was really helpful. And she has pads. She's incredible, like what she's able to do. But it was, also to have like the teenage girls there, and to hear, kind of what they've been experiencing in the neighborhood. I mean, it hurt my heart. But they walked out of the circle differently, and I think that that's so important for every woman to have when or if they
Is that another thing, is to begin to bring back some of this stuff that was done in the 70s and the 80s about women looking at martial arts, these things, just bring it back to the McCarran Park Rec, see if we can have the Parks Department, who now has not responded, right? The Parks Department and the police have not taken seriously the issues that you've been raising, Heather. Is that a fact?
Well, I mean, I can't vouch for parks, but definitely the police. I refer people to Deborah.
But what's the Parks Department done?
Their funding has been cut cut and cut and cut. So, I mean, I don't.
But do they even have a sign?
A sign for what?
Harassment, not allowed in the park?
I think that that's actually a wonderful idea, is to have a harassment or anti-harassment code of conduct for open
And not
spaces.
just for women.
No,
LGBTQ.
everyone.
I think that's very exciting. You don't look excited there. I'm looking at faces that do not look excited.
Yay.
If I can look excited at 80, come on.
The other thing I wanted to mention is I am very interested in some sort of a reading group, subgroup of, because I came across another book that I'm currently reading that speaks so much to a lot of the things that we're talking about. And it's by Julie Scelfo, Scelfo. And it's called The Women Who Made New York. And it is a history of New York, talking about what New York would have been like if there wasn't the major contributions of women. And there's also a website where I've only cursorily gone on there, but I'll put this in an email with the title of the book.
If you could put it in the chat or in an email, right?
Right. And so that we all have it, and to be able to document retroactively document the real contributions that women have made within the city and how it has affected us culturally, systemically, whether or not bridges were completed, libraries built.
Roebling, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Roebling.
Roebling.
So, and it's a history that most of it's not being taught and we don't know it. And as us women, if we don't take the time to read our own history, and know it, it's going to be even harder for us to get the proper recognition from men and from
Remember,
society
we have
in
the
general.
Tree Grows in Brooklyn Library on Leonard Street.
Can I
You know,
jump in on Deborah's book thing? Because you know
please,
I like the
that's what I'm
books.
jumping, right?
Okay, so Francois kind of went into more of the situational awareness aspects, I guess, and I'm not going to say martial arts, fitness, physical stuff. A game changer for me, and I loaned it to Jane Poole, is a book called The Logic of Misogyny by Kate
Wow.
Manne.
Wow.
Katemanne. And she is a philosophy professor, I believe, for Cornell. She's fantastic. I recommend that book to any woman who just kind of wants to understand what they're experiencing. Because for me personally, I read it and it put into words and in plain language things that it's like, wow, that's what it is. I mean, one term she had was her husband came up with it, which is funny. It's called himpathy, Himpathy. And that's, of course, where the aggressor becomes the victim, where they blame shift. Think of like Andrew Cuomo and oh my God, I've forgotten the woman's name. She's fantastic. But one of the Lindsay Boylan, who stepped forward in the whole logic of you're trying to ruin that man's life. Well, did it ruin his life? No, Eric Adams is having lunch with him. I mean, it goes into a lot of other things that I think would be fantastic. And then to get into my other little thing, which is kind of touching upon what Deborah's talking about. And it's a little bit of a ramble, but I had it brought to my attention. There's a group called Slavers of New York. They were profiled in the New York Times, and they actually document all the streets that are named after slaveholding families. They will find ads soliciting for the return of their slaves with rewards. And one that came up was Meserole. And I got clippings. I'll send them. Okay, so that's kind of one half of the equation. Okay. Now, the other half inexplicably happened a few weeks ago. I was painting and I turned on the television and I became aware of a woman. I'm not going to pronounce her name correctly. I'll put it in my email. Mary Levesque. Okay, listen, my second language is Spanish. It's not French. Long story made very, very short. She was a freed woman. She was a Civil War spy. What she did was steal the plans for the Merrimack, took them and gave them to the Union. Now, how does that matriculate locally? Well, think about it. You've got an Erickson school, you have an Erickson monument. But who put the onus on him to speed things up, and who gave him the plans, which no doubt informed what he built? Her.
Wow.
I think it's
Isn't
a
it
great
amazing?
nod in terms of women's issues. I think it's a great nod in terms of Black History Month, which we're on day 2 of. And if we were to take on changing, perhaps, I say Meserole Avenue, because it sends a really horrible message, in my opinion, that you've got a post office and a police station on a street named after a slaveholder who put out 6 awards for, quote, a Negro slave. I think that's just not good messaging. Here's our candidate, I
Thank
think
you.
it
Love
could.
it. I just
Now,
love
the
it.
question is time, is that we are near 7:30 and
Let's
we
get
can
back to
look.
topic.
No,
Yeah.
no, we're on the top. That is on the topic. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying is there anybody else with Heather that want to speak out tonight about the street harassment? We already are going to look at Hollaback and training. We're looking at Francoise and training. We're looking at books that we're going to try to raise our consciousness so we're clearer about cities and public space and who are they for and what is happening to women in general. I think the historical background, because and like, by the way, the why I was laying out today, what happened with the new why, I want to put on the table, there's a talk about a new why. Why can't there be programming on violence against women and issues of women's empowerment and that new why? Why is it that the YWs have disappeared and the YMs are here? You know, and they are all, the YMs are keeping their buildings, and women who don't always understand, though they are getting better at it, the power of space and institution building. I think neighborhood women will go on forever, even if we did nothing, just because we have our building, you know, on Manhattan Avenue. Is to not have a space for women at all, other than Neighborhood Women House. I think we're the only building from one end of Williamsburg to the other for women. So think about that. And the fact that there's a lot of money that's going to be put into that evergreen or whatever is going on over there, like them or not, they're going to be used. And that's something to think about. But you were bringing up tonight, was that you, Jane, about the Street Harassment Advisory Board by the City Council? Was that you, Deborah, or
Yeah,
Jane?
no, I had brought it up, but I think we're gonna, you know, kind of look into it a little bit more, do a little more digging before we really, see what the intentions are behind it before we
So
really dive in.
we would agree we're exploring this resolution that
Yeah.
Helen Rosenthal is working on.
Yeah, it's a 1-year study. She got the funding to do a 1-year study about street harassment. But yeah, I don't know, maybe we could discuss at our next meeting
And
and
you have,
learn a little bit more about it, read a couple more
and you
articles.
have people that are starting, which you and Deborah and Heather are part of, is this coalition, really, on trying to bring the groups, anybody working on violence against women, and not just you. I think you established tonight that you didn't want to be too narrowly defined. You didn't want to just be about street harassment or just about battered women in the home. You wanted to broaden the idea of violence against women, which I want to salute you all, because I thought, how did we end up? We're going to have a million little groups running around in every little issue that women are facing instead of putting it together. But you are talking about forming a multi organizational task force, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
or
think
is
street
it?
harassment's a good start.
It
Yes.
is. And it's something, you know, we can find ways to mitigate, and then also, you know, I mean, it's not going to be solved overnight, so it's going to take a while, and there are other topics, and there's, you know, like Deborah does incredible legislative work and has proven herself. And so I feel like this can be a group that can support that. So we can really discuss as a group. Maybe this would be a group that would have side projects or committees, you know, depending on what people are interested in.
I
So,
would want to fold LGBTQ into this as well,
yeah.
because the two
Okay, yeah.
are related. So I think that we should kind of bring that into the fold as well, because the last meeting there was the gentleman that spoke up about being harassed, and this guy was like, "Faggot, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'm gonna break your face," and that's unacceptable. And an organization that I brought up with Jan, and I don't know how they'll fit into this, but it is the New York City Commission on Human Rights. Because, I mean, theoretically, that is kind of a hate crime. I mean, it's street harassment. You don't actually have to be gay, just the presumption is such. And then you start to go into that. I think it would be good to bring them in. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, so one is you're talking about bringing in a variety of speakers that represent different organizations to lay out what they do, because you started out tonight with saying that people do not know. Okay, Deborah, you can jump right in here. Deborah said she would write it all up. She was going to look at what's available, right? And I see
Yeah.
your little yellow hand. You
Yeah.
want to speak, but we said we were
Yeah.
going to bring in some of these people. That was you, I think.
Yes. One of the things that I think to kind of give us an actionable item is I think it would be great if a small group of us could get together and begin to create a resource document that lets us know what resources already exist, what they do, have the legal definitions of what constitutes assault, what constitutes harassment, what to expect if you go and file a report or if you are assaulted, to come up with a resource guide that we can then publish, whether it is simply on a website or if they are broken down then into smaller flyers and handouts, however, but begin that project. And that can be as complicated or as simple as we choose to make it. But I think that if someone is interested in helping me with that, because it's bigger than what I can do myself,
Francoise raised her
I'll
hand.
do it.
I think. There you go. Okay.
We'll work together.
And yeah, Kyla, were you raising your hand or fixing your hair?
Oh, I'll help out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the problem with long hair. You can't tell anymore.
Can't tell.
Yes,
So.
go on.
So that was one thing that I think. So we have the idea of gathering information. The other one is figuring out a timeline for scheduling these workshops, whether it's anti-harassment. Then I think we need to come up with a real timeline on policy issues. What issues do we want to take to the people in power, whether it's our electeds, the city councils, or other resources, because I have a ton of ideas, but they're all going to take funding. And so I think we need to come up with some sort of an action plan on what are our 1, 2, and 3 of policy issues, and then begin to move this forward. Because if we're all over the place and we don't have a structure in place, we're not going to get anything done.
That's right, Deborah.
Yeah.
And I was going to say is that next, we are already working for March 2nd, I believe, Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, March is International Women's Day and Women's History Month from the U.S. side of things. We talked about the next topic. It could be just on this topic, or we were going to ask each of our elected women to lay out what they thought the priorities that they were bringing forth about women. Since the word women seems to be such a hard word for a lot of people to use, we thought it would be very clear now that we have a young mother, Jennifer Gutierrez. We have Emily who comes out of all this work, right, in Albany. We have the woman that's leading the Women's History Museum, Carolyn Maloney. I mean, we should have, for Women's History Month, Tish, if we can get some of your help, to bring to the table Nydia Velasquez. I mean, it wouldn't it be
Julia
nice?
Salazar.
Yeah.
All of them. Let's have all of them come to the table and really put out their priorities for women for this neighborhood. And and this is also another opportunity, but I think that we should always keep it on the table. And I just said that the community board, and these are small things to you all, but why is it that they don't recognize that every March is Women's History Month? I mean, come on already. We
March
recognize every other holiday.
Don't worry.
March is also the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. March is Sexual Assault Awareness, and November is Domestic Violence Awareness Months. Those are the two big.
There you go. So you got 2 months to anchor and try to get some. And we're saying visibility right now is what we're about. we're trying to bring it to people's awareness about what's going on, because you saw tonight, lots of women are being abused one way or another, but they're not saying anything.
Hey,
I
I
don't
would
think
like.
they're, yeah, go on.
Oh no, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I see one head bumping up and down
No,
all
I
over
just
the
I
place.
just looked on my phone, and March 2nd is also a Wednesday.
Yeah,
And
so
that
that would be
and that
94
increased-
Community Council.
So
Okay,
we
so
if we could
we
move
can
that.
regroup. Jane and I and Deborah, whoever wants to work on this next, the political people here. And we also want to illustrate very clearly that with the women's issues group, we're supporting, all women. The fact that people run against each other and win and lose really is not relevant to this committee. Like, I would like to see Victoria back. We have not seen Victoria since that election because she didn't win in her seat with Lincoln. Doesn't mean we don't love Victoria, so.
Jan,
we
I
want to
just want to jump in and speak. I think that there was also a lot of misogyny towards Victoria.
She was harassed.
She was
Yes.
very much harassed.
She was very much harassed, and there are things
Not by Lincoln. I'm not saying Lincoln did it. Other people did it. So
And
let's
not,
just be
not
clear.
from
We're
this
not.
group. We'd
Yeah,
love to see her
but
back.
I just, I think that when we all know that she was harassed, I have personally stood up for her as I'm doing now, but a lot of community members, including people who are now in office, again, it's just a simple act to be a leader. You apologize, you acknowledge that it happened, and then we can start to try to repair things.
If you have agents that are acting on your behalf, harassing somebody, a fellow female candidate, for example, you get them to step back. It's a matter of professionalism.
Well, first of all,
But I just
wait. This is the end of this meeting, and this part of the meeting has now many layers that are coming out. And what I want to say, Heather, you don't know me, but Francoise does, is that if we can get to the place, right, and that we don't have to all agree. Believe me, I have had, I think Deborah Benders had me crying in her arms for about 15 minutes, and she doesn't even know me that well that I can cry in her arms, so about where I felt I was totally abused and harassed, right, Deborah? And I'm not saying what it's about, so don't get nervous. I'm saying that.
Yes, you were, and I felt so bad just hearing you cry because I know the strength that you have.
No, but I'm trying to say that things happen. If you're a big girl, you're out there, people will do things and say things that are extremely hurtful, but very little hurts me, but that one did. But the point is, we have to be able to work out how we work with each other. And if women, because that's the first thing that men love to do, is the first thing that I was told in this fight with a man is that of all the women that I cared about the most who actually didn't like me at all. That was the first thing, is that these people that you think like you, they don't like you at all. They really, whatever this whole thing was. And I have other people here on the call that know what I'm talking about. The point is, I didn't believe it then. I don't believe it now. And the fact is, we have to learn how to forgive and forget and be able to battle and lose and battle and win and come back together, because that's the first thing that happens to break up any women's anything, Deborah. So if we're starting that, and you've said it a few times tonight, I would like to end with, let us create a set of basic agreements that all the people that join this group, your group that you're formulating, agree to, and that they do that, because it's nothing more hurtful than to lose a big battle because people begin to squabble and fight and they can't forgive and forget. So I don't know if I can forgive Donald Trump, but and Vito Lopez is dead, but I think I have forgiven him totally, so I'm just saying it's a pretty good idea to be able to forgive, and particularly with women who care about values. And I'm not a preacher preaching to you all right now, but I didn't want to leave us with that tone. You're such
Can
a
I like
terrible group.
mention something though, really quick, and it has nothing to do with the tone. I think Erica, what his mom wanted to talk about lights at McGolrick, and that kind of got.
Oh, where is Erica's mom?
She's still here.
Hold on, time out. Heather,
Where is she
Heather?
there?
Yeah, it's Erica. Heather is a mind reader. You know Heather. Okay, here she comes. But
I am so glad you said that. Go on.
Heather is she's brilliant. I always tell her that. Okay, here she goes. Hi,
I see that.
Last December 9th, there was the Women's Committee meeting, and I didn't listen to it live, but I did watch it the next day on YouTube. And I heard about all the things that are going on in McGolrick Park. So I said to myself, at the next meeting, I think I'm going to bring up this issue. I had taken pictures of the shelter pavilion at McGolrick Park back in 2015. There are 14 lights on that's supposed to be lit. There's only 6 lights back then in 2015. There is not even one light that is working on the pavilion. It's dark. So at the meeting for the Apollo Street homeless shelter that took place on September 22nd, 2021, I had a perfect opportunity to go over to Lincoln Wrestler. I had a perfect opportunity to talk to Emily's staff person, Andrew Epstein, and also to Ben Salazar.
Solitaire. Yeah, Solitaire.
Yeah.
Ben Solitaire.
I said to them, look at this, how dark it is.
It was
There
dark.
are no lights. And Ben said to me, he says, oh, I didn't even realize it gets so dark here. There is not even one light that works there. So we talk about public safety and the people who use the park. There are mothers bringing their little kids through the park that pick them up after daycare, school. So we need some attention there. And our new mayor talks about public safety. So I think the DOT got to get together with the Parks Department and get those lights up and working soon.
And I just want to add an addendum to follow up on Mom. One thing we all know, my mother, this is close to her heart we all know for many years, Park. And listening to stories, listening to other people, when we talk about this issue, when it comes to safety, it's something that is just, we can talk and talk and talk. And sometimes we all know the truth. It maybe this depends on who it comes from. Maybe it doesn't carry that much weight. Maybe you don't belong to the right groups. Maybe you don't know the right people. But the thing is, there's only so much you can reiterate the same thing. And this is something that needs attention, and it affects people's safety, especially women. When we drive through the park, my mother always says, pass by the park. And we always pass by the park. Like McCarran, we all know it's got the blazing lights. You can see them from who knows how far. When you pass by McGolrick, it's treacherous. So we just wanted to add that and Happy New Year to all of you. And we listen to all your meetings and we appreciate it.
No, but can we put it on the agenda?
Yeah.
We're on action. That
So
the lights need to be, first of all, McGolrick Park needs to be targeted right now because of all the things we're hearing. So
Yeah.
we want to meet with the parks people, whether they are poor or not poor.
Yeah.
There is nobody that owes us more than Mary over there that's supposed to be handling all this stuff.
We could talk to him. We could email Mary.
There's 14 lights.
Remember, Mary did not help the Ascetic women get swim time. So we got, and Bella is not here tonight. I think she may be down in Florida, but this is really sickening. What's happening.
Hold on, Dan. There's 14 lights there. There's nothing there. So those are the old lights. They got mildew in them. So even if they were working, you couldn't even, they're not workable. But even if you have the new lights, the LED lights, if you have less lights and more light, and there's an NYPD camera at the Angel. So if you have no lights working, how could you see anything?
And I think that you brought up the perfect issue for us to leave with.
Right.
We
And
want
Katie
lights for
has her
McGolrick
hand
Park.
I could send the photos that I've taken back in 2015 to Jerry or to whoever.
Katie
Good.
Denny
Well,
works with.
first of all, give it to Jane right now. And
We don't know Jane's email address.
and
I'll
Jared
find you,
definitely
Jane.
needs to have it. But the head of the Parks Committee is Phil. Phil,
So
what's up,
Jan,
Phil?
we have a Parks Committee meeting on February 17th. The agenda is already out, but I just wanted to say with McGolrick Park, there is a pretty extensive capital project that's been underway, I think since probably about 2015, maybe, that includes all the restoration of the pathways. They're gonna be doing some work on the pavilion. It should have broken ground by now, but
So we need a whole big meeting.
pandemic. I don't know
Yeah,
if you guys can hear me, but
I heard you, Katie. We got children. Katie, that's great. If Tish can bring up at the Parks meeting, and aren't you on the Parks meeting too, Katie? Katie,
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
are you on the Parks Committee?
Yes.
So I, Tish, you, who else is on the Parks meeting?
Well, Trina co-chairs, right? So
Trina.
Trina McKeever and then Steve
Chesley.
Sante Willis,
Who's the chair now?
Phil.
He's still
Niagara.
there. So Phil and
Definitely.
Trina. So if we can't win lights for McGolder Park, we better pack it in, Katie.
Right.
I
Have to
think
give up
just
our jobs.
I wonder if that's already included in the capital project that's currently frozen that should have been done by now.
Well, let's find out. So if you
Something
can
as
set
simple
up-
as, is this, Evelyn, they just need light bulbs?
no, they
Or do they need-
everything. Just send.
Jane, I'll find you somehow and I'll send you the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
I'll
have
send-
your number. I have your number. Text me.
Okay. If you have my number, text me and we'll
Okay, I
I
will.
will also send it to Jerry.
Because we can contact Mary Salig at
Okay, cool.
Parks and see if she could help.
There's
So
other.
exciting.
I just wanted to
Can
jump-
anybody go on, Deborah?
I just wanted to jump in because we do have some new people here and we brought up a lot of different things. If anybody is in the 3 people or more, or if you didn't say out loud that you were interested in working on the resource project, please email me. My email is my last name, SP as in Paul, IRO, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, the initial D for Deborah at gmail.com. If you lose that, Jane has, or Heather has my email, both of them, and they have permission to give it out. And then if anybody else needs contact information, perhaps Jane can say, or Jan can say who they can reach out to if they need to follow
Who
up.
wants to work on the March meeting can let me know. The March meeting with the political leaders. That's coming up. And anybody else have any announcements they want to give? I think we got a lot here. Hopefully you will get minutes. And someday there's going to be a person that says, I will do minutes at every women's issues meeting because whoever chairs should not have to try to write minutes. So think about that, Marie Leanza. And Marie, you can help with this political meeting. I know she's quietly hiding in the background. Bye, dears.
Okay.
Good night. And can we thank you all? And if we did it right, you would give each other each appreciation for something you liked tonight. Is there any fast thing you liked tonight that you want to appreciate as we go off the line?
We appreciate all of you.
What?
I said we appreciate all of you.
Let's get lights for the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate Erica's mom for documenting the lights. That's amazing.
That's incredible. I appreciate Dina for sitting with her mother, hiding in the corner behind that picture of Tish. There she is. Right?
I saw her dog earlier and it was adorable. I just
Yeah,
want to say.
before you close, can I say one thing to you? We did a food distribution last week in honor of community activists past and present.
This is great. Yay.
And we
Yay.
gave out food, we gave out hand sanitizer, masks, we gave out COVID testing, and our partner with someone else.
Jan.
Did you hear that, Jan?
No.
I said we did an event last week in honor of community activists past and present. And we give out hand sanitizer, masks, fresh vegetables, canned goods, fruits.
Wow.
And this thing, I said, community activists give their time freely to seek change for the betterment of the community. They seek to change, correct things not seen by others. They are the voice of the voiceless. So I thank you, Jan, Tish, for all the hard work they got them Cooper Park houses. I appreciate everything.
Thank you all. Thank you all. And just so you know, Tish and Marie all graduated the college program of Neighborhood Women. You know,
Yep.
so these
Right.
things didn't
Thank
come
you.
out of, they didn't jump out of the sky, but we
Can you
started
hear
our
me,
own
Jan?
leadership program. Okay, so you're
All right.
wonderful women, exciting, and we will let you know about the dates and all that about March. But I think that we should do pre-work, and you already got a lot of pre-work to do. Thank you. Bye.
Good night, all.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.